Hey guys, so today's video is going to be a little bit different. Sorry, I'm still stupid allergies. Anyways, so today's video is going to be a little bit different. Basically, I just wanted to do a video addressing, I guess, a little bit about skincare, about acne. You know, I get a million questions about acne, weight loss, all those things every single day. Those are probably my two most common questions. Now, the problem with answering, weight loss or acne questions is that things really aren't as simple, I think, as people try to make them out to be. A lot of times people will just message you and say, oh my gosh, I'm breaking out, I don't know what to do, help. And I mean, there's so many reasons why you can break out. Obviously there's the obvious reasons, which I've gone over a million times: genetics, hormones. Females, obviously we have fluctuating hormones. Like I personally tend to break out before, the week before that week, yeah. That's when I tend to break out personally. If you're doing all the right things and you're still breaking out, then at that point it's just probably genetics or hormones, which are a lot more complicated to address. But I just want to talk really quickly about 5 habits that I think people have, or 5 behaviors that people have that also tend to break them out, that, don't really have any relevance, I guess, whatsoever to genetics and things like that. So one of the first things I noticed is that, cell phones. Okay, so I personally have an iPhone. There's a large touch screen, and this actually happened to me, and this is why I even noticed this. It's just because, I used to talk on the phone a lot, maybe 1 or 2 hours a day, and I started breaking out just really badly on the sides of my cheeks. It was unlike any other acne I'd ever had before, and I couldn't figure it out. I was thinking, why is it just on one side of my cheek and not the other? And then I realized it was because that was the cheek that I always used to hold my phone. I would, talk into the phone like this, or be holding it to my face like that, because I didn't have a headset. So if you are someone who likes to talk on the phone a lot, then I would highly suggest cleaning your phone really often. I know people that clean their phone every day. Or also just getting a headset, and that way it's a little bit more sanitary. Because if you think about it, you carry around your phone everywhere. You're always touching it. You eat and then you touch it again. And then, how often do most people clean the surface of their cell phones? So cell phones, I think, are just a really big breeding ground for bacteria. Another thing that I think actually encourages a lot of acne for a lot of people is their hair. Now, I'm lucky that my hair doesn't really make me break out, anywhere along my hairline. But the other day, I remember I've met quite a few people like this, where they have pretty good skin, but then right here along their hairline and, just right underneath their bangs, I don't have any bangs, obviously, but right underneath their bangs, they tend to break out really, really, really badly. And I can't help but think it's because of the bacteria and the sweat, when they sweat and then their hair sticks to their forehead and the bacteria in the head. I just feel like a lot of times that's the reason why. Now, granted, some people just genetically are prone to breaking out on their forehead, but if you are someone that has bangs or you tend to break out around your hairline, and this is kind of where most of your acne is concentrated, then I would just try, tying your hair back, tying back your bangs and clipping it back during the daytime when you're at the gym, whenever you're out and about and you're not really styling your hair, like for a special night, obviously you'd want to, style your bangs. But if it's just for everyday life, then I would maybe just clip back your bangs so they're not making you break out along your forehead. Another thing that I think tends to break people out is when they eat. Now, I'm not talking so much about, how a lot of people say, oh, if you eat chocolate or if you eat, oily food, you're going to break out. I really don't think things are quite that simple. I try not to encourage people to oversimplify things quite that much. Some people actually do know some people that do break out when they eat bad food a lot. But I think sometimes, a lot of times what it has to do when you break out right here after you eat greasy food, it's just because you didn't wipe away the skin completely. If you think about it, whenever you eat french fries or like boiling crab, whatever it is you're eating at the time, and then how it just gets right here and you don't really think about it. Well, the skin right here tends to get clogged really easily. Like if I do this a lot of times in the mirror and I'm really, really close, but I can see this, the pores right there tend to get clogged really, really easily. So I would just be careful if you're going to eat oily food, and if you tend to break out here after you eat oily food, just make sure, you wipe it with maybe a wet napkin or something like that. I think that helps a lot. So the fourth thing that I think tends to break people out is medications. Now, when I mean medications, I mean any kind of medications, any kind of drug, whether it be those prescribed to you, recreational drugs. Obviously, people tend to engage in more dangerous behaviors than others, right? And I think on top of the lifestyle that comes with that, not sleeping enough, eating bad food, staying out really late, maybe being around a lot of things that are dirty. But I think also, a lot of times when I knew people in real life who started, getting heavy into their drug use, their skin just freaked out. Think about it, your skin is a reflection of how healthy your body is. So that's just something to think about, whether it was smoking, cigs or other substances, whatever it was, that was their vice. A lot of times they would break out really badly afterwards. So it's just food for thought. Also, your birth control can break you out. Actually, birth control is prescribed to a lot of people to treat their cystic acne, but anything that can make your acne better can make your acne worse. So just remember that, especially when you're playing with your hormones. So if your skin isn't getting better after a few months, after the first, 3 months or so, then I would really consider maybe switching to a different one that could actually maybe help your skin a little bit more and not aggravate it quite so much. So the last thing I'll talk about is poor makeup hygiene. Women are lucky enough that we can actually cover up our breakouts and our pimples with makeup, right? Well, I mean, men can too, but you know, it's just, I guess, more common for females to do it. So a lot of my friends who tend to break out more often, they tend to wear a lot of face makeup. And that's fine, you know, obviously I totally, completely understand that. But a lot of times I would notice that they would have very, very poor hygiene when it came to their makeup. And if you're not applying your makeup in a way that's hygienic, well, first off, you know, makeup isn't really letting your skin breathe. So you want to be, you know, picky with your makeup in the first place and be very careful with it. But especially if you're not being sanitary with the way in which you apply it. I remember I watched one of my friends put on her makeup and she didn't wash her hands and she grabbed her foundation bottle, took her finger over it, shook it like this, and then, you know, started doing this and putting it back. And I was freaking out, like, oh my gosh, it's so dirty. And then I see her take her compact and there's like a dirty powder puff that's been used how many times and like pat it over to set her foundation. And you really want to be careful if you are someone who is prone to breaking out with your makeup. I'm not a fan of powder puffs for any kind of compact. I don't use blotting powders. I think they're gross and disgusting. If you think about it, blotting powder writes to make you not shiny. So if you're out and about and you have an oily face and there's bacteria in your face because you've been walking around, it's like growing on your makeup, and then you take your dirty puff and then you put it onto your compact and then you put it on your face, and a few hours later you do the same thing and then you put it back in your bag and you do that for months and months and months. I just think it's a breeding ground for bacteria. Also, when you apply makeup, what I like to do is I like to clean my hands first and then I'll apply my foundation onto the back of my hand. And that way it's just a little bit more sanitary. Another thing is clean your makeup brushes very often. Now, I've looked at a lot of girls and very few of them clean their makeup brushes, I think, quite as much as they should have. You know, and I just think if you're going to be wearing foundation often, then I would just wash your brushes frequently. You know, obviously if you don't break out that often, I guess it's not that big of a deal, but I would wash them at least once a week. In a perfect world, we'd be washing our brushes after every single use. And obviously that's not very realistic, especially if you only just have one foundation brush, but really be careful with how you apply your makeup. And also in the removal of the makeup, if you're going to wear face makeup, I always wash my face twice or I use a toner. And I know that seems kind of a little bit overkill too, but what happens is a lot of times if I only wash my face once or if I don't use a toner, I notice that there's still a little bit makeup on left at the end of the day. And if you have any makeup on your face and you're going to sleep with it, that's a really good way to break out. But that's basically it, so I hope this video was somewhat helpful. Just talking about 5 random things I think tend to break people out a lot that they don't really think about and you don't really realize that you're doing until you're doing it. So there you guys go. I hope you guys have a nice weekend and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.